Hi, welcome to our sketch challenge. This is with Roni Sue Scrapper here on YouTube. This is the sketch I found on Pinterest. I am using the Lucy Close to My Heart paper packet. It's from about 2012, so it is about 7 years old. It is out of my stash. I'm trying to use up what I've got and move forward. This is a photo of my granddaughter. It's her 3-month photo. This is another look at that sketch. There's a banner across the bottom. That's pretty much the only thing I don't do. I had thought about putting flowers across the bottom of it, but I thought it kind of looked like a weird smile, so I did leave that off. Here are two pieces that were already cut to this size. I didn't have to do any cutting down on them. They were just scraps from a previous project. So this is kind of a yellow peachish color. We'll just call it yellow, with pink flowers. Very pretty. And the back side of that is a green paper that almost reads as a solid, but it does have a honeycomb shape in it. I'm putting it down on pink Close to My Heart paper, cardstock, sorry. And that's approximately where the photo will sit. There are 3 strips underneath the photo on the sketch. So I cut this one about 1 inch wide, and I put a fishtail on the end, and it's out of this pretty flowered, and it looks like it has lace on it and little crowns. This is one of the zip strips from the Close to My Heart paper, and I make that as my second strip, just a little bit longer than the first one. And this one's also a zip strip, and it's that same yellow color. And I make that one just a little bit shorter and place it over the top of the second strip. So that's the base of where my photo will go. Here I have it, so the bottom of the photo kind of goes down into the green piece, but I later do move it up so the bottom of the photo hits that 1 inch strip. Here I put pop-up dots on the back of my photo. In hindsight, I wish I would have just used foam, but that's okay because this is a lot of work. And I'm hoping that with time and pressure, it doesn't cause the photo to curve around the pop-up dots. That's one thing I worry about. I'm not taking the backs off yet because I do want to experiment and move the photo around a little bit. In the sketch, there's a little cluster in the top left corner, and that is actually where the title goes. So I place the 1 inch fishtailed piece on first. I decide to take this zip strip and tuck it up underneath that one just a little bit. I had some washi tape sitting there and I was going to use that and totally forgot. But that's okay. It's good to use up these zip strips. And there's the other one. I don't tuck that one, I just place it beneath the other zip strip. Then I use the rub-ons that go with this paper packet. And like I said, they're old, but they, in previous projects, have worked great, and they worked great in this one. Right here, next to the photo, is a spot for journaling. But I decided just to use this saying right here. It leaves kind of a weird pink triangle between the photo, the green paper, and the saying, and so I move it down just a little bit, and I was nervous about that because the paper, I was worried would make it crack or not let the press on stick. And so the rub-on, I mean, and it does, as long as I get down into those cracks, it stayed just fine, at least so far. and they peel off great. I haven't had very many issues with these. But that does get rid of that weird triangle that was down in the corner. So when I place the photo, I cover up the edge of the saying there, and there's no pink showing through. Here's where I decided to lift it up out of the green. These rub-ons have some cute flowers, a couple of clusters and then some single ones. I decided to take one of them and I'll place it to the right side of the photo. And I like how it looked sitting on top of those strips, but I decided, hey, it might be cool to lift the strips and place it down, just tucking slightly under the yellow paper. And that right there is where I place it. You can see little bits of the flower stem between each of the strips. Once I placed the strips down, and I did use more adhesive to stick them back down, I realized that I really didn't like the way that looked. I didn't like it breaking up the flower stem, and I do find a way to fix that later on. There's no way now that I can move the rub-on, and I don't want to move the strips, but I do find another fix for it. There's the second bouquet of flowers that will be on the left side of the page, and this time I decide I'm going to lay over the top because I don't want to make the same mistake I did on the right side. So here I cut it out. The only part that tucks behind is the very bottom of the stem. That way it kind of looks like it's growing out of something and not just floating. And I place them over the top of the strips and along the side of the green piece. And I really like the way it looks. Now once again, I was pretty nervous because this is a lot of layers of paper. There's the green and then each of the strips, and it is pretty textured. You can see the rise and fall. And I just made sure to get into each of the little cracks between the strips and pressed it down really well. Even though that won't be seen, I went ahead and pressed that down behind. There were a couple of places that started to lift. I just ran over them just a little bit and they worked great, stayed on. And I just think that looks so much better than underneath the strips. And there I stick the fishtail back down. Okay, so here's where I was trying to figure out how to do a banner, and I had thought about using the flowers, each of the individual flowers across the bottom of the photo like a banner, and it looked okay, but it just kind of looked like a goofy flowery smile. So I decided to scatter my flowers around the page instead, and this is how I cover up my mistake on the right side. There's a kind of a peach and white flower. It has scripty writing over the top of it. I place that right over the top of the strips like I did the other flower, and that hides the weirdness of the stem peeking between the strips on this right side. Once again, just getting down into those crevices and rubbing it as good as I could. These two, I really like them up here in this upper cluster. And once again, I want to layer them over the top of the paper. and just the way they were placed on that paper worked great for me, so I just kept them together. I do want a third flower up there in that cluster, and among these flowers there's a tiny one, and I just place it right up there on top. I take these other 4 flowers, oh I guess there's 5, the big one also. I wanted to spread them out throughout the layout. This big one, I thought about putting it there, and I just kind of move it back and forth trying to decide, and right there I let my fingernail dig into it a little bit, and when I lift it right there, whoops, there's a chunk still on the cardstock. So I place this back over that little chunk, and that is what decided for me where I'll put this flower. But that's okay. It was one of the possibilities and I liked it, so that's where it stayed. That does leave a little bit of a gap between the flower and the yellow piece, but that's okay. I when I had thought about moving it over against that, it kind of hid the fact that that's a layer that ends there. I don't know, but that's why I had moved it back to the left. So I find contrasting contrasting flowers and place them around the layout. I thought about putting that smaller one there, but when I placed this bigger flower there, I really liked it. So that's where it stayed, and it does layer up over the top of the journaling just a little bit, or sorry, that saying just a little bit. And I think it looks really cute peeking out from behind the photo. This flower and the other big one that's the same color as this, I think it matches really well with the 3-month sign that's laying on her chest in the photo. And her dress goes really well with this paper packet. I have kind of a hard time deciding where to place this third flower, and that is where I end up putting it. I just thought that big flower kind of looked lonely down there. And that last flower will go right there. I wanted to bring some of that hot pink to this side. I need to touch each one of them because I wasn't sure if I put them all down, but they were all done. Okay, so I bought the Happy Jig. I think it's been on the market a while. I don't know how long, but it's new to me, and you can bend wire around it. And I made this love sign with the little heart, and that's where the title goes on this layout. So the love will be my title, and that I made it out of rose gold wire, and it is so cute. I love it. I can tell you I'm going to be buying a whole bunch of wire. I was a little bit nervous making this, thinking that the wire was going to be really stiff and I'd have a hard time bending the wire. My fingers struggle when it comes to picking up small things. The one thing I didn't think about when I made the wire love is how I was going to stick it to my layout. Now that's kind of what I'm thinking about as I'm taking the backing off of my pop-up dots, is how in the world am I going to stick this to my layout. I did think, a little bit of hot glue here and there would be good, and maybe some liquid glue would do it. What I ended up deciding to do was to use sticky dots. And I have some somewhere in my scrap room, and I couldn't find them. Oh, and also I placed this photo on, and I remember, oh, I have my T-square. So I bought one a long time ago, and I've lost it. I swear to you, my scrap room eats things because they just disappear. And that's one of the things that disappeared, but I did just get a new one. I'm weirdly excited about it. So I know my photo is nice and straight on there. And I believe this is, oh, I made two more. You can kind of see them right there. I think I covered them over. But I made two more, there they are, of the hearts. Because I thought that love looked kind of lonely being the only wire on the layout. But here I am getting my sticky dots out. And they are really thick, big ones. My small ones, once again, disappeared somewhere. I'm sure I've used them maybe elsewhere in my house and I didn't put them back. I don't know. These scissors, I think, are a must in any scrap room. They are the non-stick microtip scissors from Close to My Heart. So you can cut sticky things and it sticks to the blade, you know, enough that it just stays there. You can pull it right off. But any other scissors that I've used to cut these things, it just gums them up and it's terrible. So I'm able to cut off little chunks. I used half of a dot for this love sign, cutting it into fourths, and then I would roll it between my fingers. And as I put it on, I would stretch it out just a little bit so it ran along the wire. And I put it on the low spots, so basically the spots that would hit my paper first. So there's one on the L, one on the O. I believe I put one at the bottom of the heart and one between the V and the E. And I've touched it since then, and it's been a little while. It sticks great. I can see the pop dots a little bit, but that's okay. It's staying on there. I was really worried. I've shaken the layout just a little bit to see if they would fall off, and they do not. The one thing I would do differently is I would use tinier sticky dots, and they wouldn't show as much. Maybe the tiny ones just kind of rolled up and stuck on. After using the jig and pressing down on the wire, my fingers were starting to get a little bit sore, but that's okay. So I take the other half of the sticky dot and I cut it into fourths again. It wanted to stick to my fingernail polish, but I had to use the scissors to pry it off. And I use 1/4 on, or well, 2 of the quarters on each of the hearts. I just put one at the bottom of the heart and one up near the loop of each heart, rolling it and stretching it and sticking it on. And I'm just noticing that I forgot to wear my rings, so it makes my fingers look a little weird with those tan lines. I almost never go without my rings, so that's weird for me to look at. Anyway, enough of that. Here I am cutting up that last chunk. 2 more pieces to go onto this heart. This one I will stick just to the right of the photo, near where the green and the yellow touch each other. They're at the top of the green. I just wanted that rose gold wire in 3 places on the layout. And here I use the scissors just because my fingers are getting a little sore pressing on the wire. And it's really not that bad. I just thought this might help. But I go to each of the places where there's the adhesive and just kind of smush down on it. and it did the trick. And that page is done. Here are a few close-ups. If you are not a subscriber, I would love to have you as part of my community. Please subscribe. Hit like if you enjoyed. Hop on over to Roni Sue Scrapper's YouTube page and check out her layout using the same sketch. Thank you. Bye.